In this tutorial, the sand wedge could hold the key to your driver to getting more power and distance by using your lead leg in a more effective way. And we're going to look at what the lead foot should be doing. We're going to look at the lead foot, ankle, knee and hip and just use a simple exercise so that you can tap in to these forces from the ground and fire the pivot more effectively so you can release that golf club with more momentum and later. So what am I talking about? Well, I'm going to put the driver to one side for a second and I'm just going to use the sand wedge, but we're not going to use the actual club for its normal purpose. We're going to use the grip and we're going to place it on the floor. What we're going to do is we're just going to take our normal stance. Now what I do suggest you do is turn it so it's face down and then just wedge your lead foot up against it. So the club is running through the middle of your lead foot from toe to heel. And what I want you to do is literally just explore now. Imagine you've got a club in your hand and just make a little swing. Okay. And just feel yourself apply pressure into this grip by just dropping as you rotate back. What I want you to do now is I want you to push off back by extending your lead leg, but we're going to let the foot roll over the grip. And notice where I go. I go back. Now this might feel a bit strange. I'm sure it does, because most people are used to going forward with everything. The pelvis, the torso, all the mass is going forward. The knee kind of buckles. We get this varus knee orientation relative to the hip, and all this is doing is just stalling the pivot. It just starts to restrict body rotation at a critical moment in the movement when we should be transferring these rotations through these segments ultimately through to the club later for that more powerful snap release. So just getting a little bit of a feel for this drop and pop. Now this might be really strange and it might be tricky to do. So what I want you to do is I want you to test it first by just putting the club in front of you, taking a split stance for like a little mini lunge, and just let your foot roll to the inside of the grip. And all I want you to do is just bend your knee and rotate back away from the target and feel how the pressure loads through the medial border of the foot. That's the inside edge all the way through to the toe. Now what I want you to do is extend your knee back, but we're going to do it by rolling the foot over the grip. So notice what's happened here. The foot has rolled and now I've got the outside edge of the foot, the lateral border of the foot on the floor. Now this is an inversion and it's a big component of supination, which is essentially the push-off mechanics we need in your golf swing. So we can transfer all that force from the ground through the body, but we can also do it with rotation. Because notice what's happening here. My lower leg is rotating. The ankle, and I'm going to get a little bit deeper now. Here, you can see with my sock here, I've got a logo on the sock in the middle. Just going to get that in the middle. So that's where my subtalar joint is. So where the talus is, what happens is the foot, can you see, rolls. Now look at that logo. It's essentially rotating. My lower limb, tib and fib, are rotating. But what I suggest you do is test it further down the shaft. So now it's much thinner. Now the shaft should go through the first and second toe and through the middle of the heel, and just explore rolling on the inside of the foot and rolling to the outside of the foot. So essentially you've got this eversion and inversion of the foot. Feeling this, push it forward. I'm going to go for the grip here, load and unload. Okay, now once we've felt this in this exercise, we can bring a club in. I'm going to use driver because this is what it's all about. I'm also just going to use the split stance, but I'm going to put my shoe back on because it can be a little bit uncomfortable, that. So I'm going to put my shoes on. Painter shoes, guys, as well. I'm an ambassador for these because I think they're the best shoe on the market for exactly what we're talking about here. For movement of the foot, movement of the shoe, propulsion mechanics, absolutely top class. Biomechanically, there is no other shoe on the market that I've seen that comes close. They're all too much, I think even too much fashion focused, but we're not going to go into shoes. But if you want something that's functionally, ergonomically designed for golf, for these mechanics, then Painter shoes are the one. You can check the website. On my website I've got some preferred shoe models from Painter for these exact reasons. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my split stance. And I'm going to swing, and I'm going to just swing back and load into the medial aspect of the foot. That's the inside. I'm just going to roll onto the inside and swing back. Now, we're not stacking and tilting or any of that business. I'm literally just letting my pressure go to the toe as I rotate my body away from the target. So essentially as I swing the club back. And now what I'm going to do is leave the club behind and just feel that lead leg action. Because it's not about replicating positions or the club has to be here at this moment in time. It's about just leaving the mass behind the pivot and the pivot reacting to the chain of events that start here. This is the origin of the sequence for that essentially push off, acceleration phase of your downswing. So I want you to play around with this feeling, and when we go into a step drill in a minute, you're going to feel it. Absolutely. So here, dropping in and then pushing off. And look how this extends the leg. The rotation's coming from here and here. And the knee, that just straightens, you see? And that allows the whole thing to rotate and allows me to move back away from the direction I'm swinging the club, which is perfect. Because it slingshots the golf club. The body becomes part of the slingshot. So you're just using natural, primitive mechanics that we use for throwing and hitting. You'll see this kind of thing in baseball all the time with the hitters. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just move this sideways here. Be careful of the club head, we don't want to smash that. And what I'm going to do is now feel this. I'm going to make sure I'm on top of the grip, not just wedged too far, otherwise it's a long way to go. Make sure you're on top. So you've only got half the foot on the inside. And I'm going to do a little swing. Feeling that drop. Now if you're cheating, if you're using a bit of a stack and there's no real backswing, really simple. Bring the trail foot towards the lead foot. Make sure that club head's down. This could be dangerous. Okay. Few little half swings in the air. Take a step to swing back. Now make sure you take the step first. Swing back and then load into this golf club. It's almost like a wedge. But don't go trying to replace this with any wedge or anything like that, because we've got to allow for that inversion of the foot to move the ankle. Now leave the club behind and push off. Roll the foot over the club. So you can see it's pushed my lead hip back. I've extended using that sagittal plane vertical force through the body to absolutely supercharge this pivot. And not only that, I'm doing it in a very stable form because this provides stability. When you take that golf club away, you're going to really feel the difference. You're going to feel what it's like to load the inside of the foot. You're going to feel what it's like to push off and allow yourself now, because you're aware of how it feels, you're going to sense the outside of the lead foot too. Now we're not trying to move in such an extreme manner, do a Scotty Scheffler or a Bubba Watson or a Justin Thomas or Lexi Thompson, all these weird and wonderful and amazing and very functional lower body actions. We're not trying to replicate that. We're just allowing our feet to move. we're allowing ourselves to use what we possess. And now I'm going to bring in the step exercise. We're going to start with the feet together, and by taking that trail step first, we can then drop into the lead side and then push off. And then in the finish, just recognise the form. You can see, I can feel now that inversion, I can feel myself loaded. And notice when you do the exercise with the club and the split stance with the mini lunge, you load in the toe and then you push back to the heel. So now I'm feeling my pressure in the heel to invert the foot. So we would go forward and rotate. I can feel myself loading on the forefoot. There's some tension here. I can feel a load through my quads. Then I'm going to push off the toe to the heel and let the foot invert. That's exactly what we're after. So the pressure is going through the foot, through the laces to the heel. So take that away. How does that feel now? I can feel now that pressure moving through the ankle, all the way through to the heel. And we're allowing the ankle to actually be part of this rotary system. So right, what's that feel like with the driver? The proof is in the pudding, isn't it? So I'm going to have a little practice swing now, normal stance. And start to feel how that lead foot can play a role in stabilising me and also providing power, rotation, and it's all through mobility. None of this is trying to keep it still or rigid or quiet. So we're using its movement for its function. And look at that, allowing ourselves to load and unload off that lead foot. Let yourself load into that lead side. Start to really give yourself the opportunity to use it and launch it. I'm going to go for more load into that lead side. That's better. And it's allowing me to be more positive. Push off back. I could probably go a bit early with the push off. This is my Achilles heel really, is I need to push off and allow it to really push that lead hip back. Most of us do, to be honest. Now we can switch the step drill. If you're feeling confident, you can step onto the lead side. So start with the feet together, get the club going, and as you start to swing it back, drop into the lead side. Now you know how this should feel. And if you watch the 1, 2, 3, 4 videos, you'll know this is the 2 into the 3, and we're working on the 4. This is a big movement for the 4. So exploring that natural transition through these phases from 2 to 3 to 4, it's a flowing sequence. You can start with your feet together, get the club swinging, and then load into that lead side. And then let it go. And using the club exercise gives you that feel of how far you can load and then push off. So I'm going to try this last one. Just use those step exercises as dry exercises, no ball. I'm going to go with the lead side again and explore more of that rotation. Way better. So, guys, explore that lead side. It's a real way of you harnessing that power from the ground, channeling it up through that lead side to provide that stability, resistance if you like, for you to really let go by firing the pivot and just ultimately, yeah, letting go. So you can release freely. You're not having to hold on, because as you're rotating, the club is lagging. Once you stop rotating, this club takes over. And now it's chaos. We're losing control of our release. But if we're pushing off, we're firing the pivot and accelerating. This club is lagging behind for longer, and the release is later, and you're accumulating and transferring momentum along the way. It's absolutely perfect. But you've got to keep the pivot going. And this is how you keep the pivot going.